And just like that, we are back. How's it going? As always, it is Nate Mumford, Director of Sales Engineering here with RCS, still hanging out with you every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time for another RCS Live. Today, we're talking about how to program a GSelector themed weekend. Don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but obviously, summer here in the States is about to wrap up, and that typically means Labor Day weekend, some holiday programming. And we have some past videos talking about how to do that in GSelector. And I thought it's always a great reminder as we go into the end of the summer, just to refresh some themed weekends, right? A couple housekeeping things to get out of the way. Of course, yes, we are live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter live as well. I have my chat open here. If you want to chat and ask questions on any of those mediums, just let me know. Don't forget to check out those backup paths. That's right. Data exchanges, backup paths, and we're always looking for beta users as well. Look how gorgeous this GSelector 5.1 is. If only, I don't know, you could become a beta user and get this right now. Get early access to GSelector 5.1 or Zeta 522.1. We have some RCS lives coming up in the near future, talking about some of those highlights as well. If only there was some past videos showcasing, I don't know, an archive of some of our RCS live videos. You can check those out, rcsworks.com/RCS-live. That's our archive over there. Some great videos for you there as well. Don't forget the Studio Spotlight, hashtag Studio Spotlight. Want to showcase you and your RCS system. Got some gorgeous pictures from you. So if you want to submit those, that's marketing@rcsworks.com. Again, marketing@rcsworks.com. Get you part of our Studio Spotlight here on our social media as well. Let's see here. Oh, events on the road as well. Where's my picture here? Hold on a second. Don't forget, we're back on the road as well. Some great events coming up in the fall. You can see some of those, I would say, radio days, and of course, the NAB Fall Show, and so much more. So if you want to check us out on the road, we are here to answer your questions, show you how to do stuff with either, GSelector, Zeta, Acquira, RCS News, Revma, the list goes on, RCS Cloud, wherever you want to talk about, we are here to talk about. But let's jump into today's topic, which again is how to program a GSelector themed weekend. So I got my GSelector right here. So the idea is, what's a themed weekend? A lot of stations like to kick off an 80s throwback weekend, an A to Z weekend, end of summer block party, stuff like that. Essentially, think of the theme as a value that we can schedule on, right? That's the biggest thing we have to realize. When we talk about what is a theme, it goes back to the bigger picture in GSelector, which is we have the attribute and then we have a value, right? That's the idea of GSelector. That can be whatever you want it to be. So for sound code, if you want it to be rock, pop, whatever it is, we take the sound code, the attribute, and then the values, which are rock, pop, we rotate those accordingly. Could be a peak year, something along those lines, or it could be station content. You'll see me, I kind of play around here with some of my clients. We talk about essentially how to do forward momentum intro times, scheduling fly-in links with only dry imaging corresponding with their own intros. Maybe I'll say that for a future concept as well, but that's why you might see some of these no intro themes in here as well. I was playing around with that. And, hi from Thailand. I love it. Thank you for checking in. I appreciate it. Any questions, let me know. Love to hear from you. So as I said, you can see we have the chat open here as well. So when we talk about a theme weekend, what is your theme? It's a way to isolate and schedule. And don't forget, if you know me and you know GSelector, I'm all about control. I like knowing exactly what's going on, what should rotate, how and why. And we're going to talk about all of that today here. So the first thing really kind of boils down to is creating and adding your theme, right? What is your theme? What are the songs in there? So what I'm going to do is double click on just Ed Sheeran here for 1 second. And what I like to do personally is I like to first create the theme itself. That's just me personally. So I have some station-specific settings, and I have some global station settings. Remember this little line right here, right? Anything to the left is global, to the right is station-specific. Here in my database, theme is going to be a global setting. So you can see here, there's that theme. There's some of those intros, dry jingles I talked about earlier. I'm going to create a brand new theme assigned to the song, and let's call it RCS Live Theme Weekend, right? Just very, very simple, something like that. And I'm going to assign it to the song here. Click OK and hit close. We're going to save this right now. Go back to our browse. Now we have that theme created. And we can also isolate by that theme here too, right? We do a little quick refresh here of my screen. And then so if you go back to my theme here, you'll see, I'll go there in a second. I'll create that theme in there too. So the idea here is that we want to actually identify that theme and assign that theme to everybody by creating the theme with one song individually first. I like that because it creates the SQL instance, and of course it has it saved in your system, just nice and clean in my opinion. So then at that point in time, we just got to essentially pick songs to do that. So you can see there's a browse list here. Click on this icon that has a no browse list. I'll pick on, let's say we'll go take Lord. We'll take one of these songs here. I'm just left clicking and dragging, but don't forget, I can sort by artist A to Z, right? And then I can do something like this where I can control click to bring songs over, left click, drag it over, right? I can also do shift click too. So I can do something like this, shift click, right? And then drag all those songs over here if I wanted to, right? Lots of ways you can do this. Once we have this in here, this is a browse list. Just a little quick tip. Don't forget you can schedule based on browse lists as well. That's the position here. You'll see 1 through 10. We can organize this any way we want. And see that big red here? That means that's next to play. I can double click on Lord. That gives me next to play. Want to do a quick little A to Z weekend? Just go to title, double click the top one here. There's the new position, right? Save this browse list. I'll save this as RCS Live Theme Weekend for right now. But you can see that now that we have these assets here, we can really start to isolate it or again, schedule by a browse list in order if we wanted to. But right now, we're kind of talking about a theme weekend, kind of just a generic, all of these songs rotating accordingly, following some best practices and some of our rules that we have in place and goals inside of GSelector. So if we go here to the top filter here, if we scroll down, you'll see there's an RCS Live themed weekend. There's our assets right there. Now you'll notice we have 10 assets, right? 10 assets. If we jump to the multi-song changer, how many songs do we have? I am a stickler on developing best practices and behaviors. How many songs do we have? If you go to the browse here, 10 songs. Multi-song changer, 10 songs. Always make sure those numbers match, right? That's simple as that. There's many ways you can utilize the multi-song changer, but the amount of times we had clients call us up and say, so I have 5,000 assets in my computer. And I went in GSelector and I did a mass change and I deleted a bunch of stuff and I may have deleted all my songs. Now you'll see there's a bunch of things we'll prompt you here that says, are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? And that is because guess what? They're there for a reason. That stop sign at an intersection is there for a reason. That's exactly the reason why. So I'm going to go into the song attributes here, hit the plus. Notice the multi-song changer. We haven't really talked about a lot of that here in the RCS Lives, but essentially we have an option to gray is neutral, nothing happens. Plus is add a value. Delete is remove a value from there. So I'm going to add this value. I'm going to go over here to my theme. We should have I'm going to create this one more time here. We'll do RCS Live Weekend, right? Themed weekend. All right. Theme weekend, right? Hit OK. Add that song. Yep, I know it's in there. Let's go to the all. There it is. That's right. I'll drag this over here. I can left click and drag or just move it over, your choice. From there, I can close this. I can then save this here as well. Now look at this. Geezer sync with Zeta, match changes, blah, blah, blah. Are you sure you want to change the 10 songs? Yes, I'm sure. Are you sure you're sure? Yes, I'm sure. The more songs you have, we'll give a backup reminder for you there too, just so you know. So there's my 10 songs, right? I have my theme in there as well. Life is good. At this point in time, we have the 10 songs. We have the theme weekend. I can just go back here and go back to a no filter here if I wanted to. Now, let's really talk about adding those themes into clocks. Remember, we're working smarter, not harder. And if you have any questions on this, I also have the chat on here too, right? Just making sure you're there. Any questions on this process, let me know. So we're to the clock section here. And you'll notice I already have a themed weekend RCS Live already created for you. We're just going to go here into the drop down and we're going to pick a theme song. And that theme is going to be here. I'm going to reset my view, reload my station here to get that attribute there. I am not going to save my changes. Yes, I'm sure there. I'm just resetting to make sure that attribute's there. Moving very quickly online here. So let's go ahead back here. If that drop down, where's my theme song? Go to the drop down here. There's my RCS Live themed weekend right there. See that? So let's just pretend here. And actually, did I grab the right clock? Ah, look at that. No, I didn't. So let's go ahead and cancel our changes here. Let's go back to our RCS themed weekend. Remember, work smarter, not harder. There's your tools in place here to show you what you're doing, right? So again, drop down theme song. We'll go to this. We're going to drop the RCS live themed weekend. We'll do, let's say maybe it's the top 3 in a row, whatever it is, something on those lines, right? And we'll do one more because I want to show you some rotations here in the goals tab. So there's theme weekend, theme weekend, theme weekend. I'm going to save my clocks right here. All nice and neat. You can make this whatever you want it to be. Remember, work smarter, not harder. Save clock as, right? All I did there was take my generic clocks, save the clock as, replace them with the theme song, call it a day. Don't make this more complicated than it has to be. But also I have to say respect the process, right? If I'm saving a clock, save a clock as, make your changes, save the clock. Very, very simple. You'd be surprised how many users kind of don't really follow some of the smaller ones. So again, just going over here, save clock as, create a new one. We'll give it a name here. Let's just do it right here. We'll just do it clock to test, right? Hit OK. There's that clock to test. Make sure we save that clock so it's in there. Boom, we're good to go. Make your changes and we're done. Let's jump to the assignment grid for right now because now we have to assign the themed weekend. Now we can always go to the overrides right here. There's both grid and clock specific overrides. So I could go right over here and just say, okay, for my themed weekend RCS live, right? Maybe we'll pick this Friday and we'll do 5 p.m., right? 5 p.m. And then we'll do, let's say through, I don't know, Sunday, right? Sunday 21st. And we'll do 11 p.m., something like that, right? So you're essentially saying, here's my override. So in these times, replace my default grids with these clocks. That's what I'm saying right there. I'm going to cancel those changes, jump back over here. What I like to do personally is sometimes I like to go and just copy the entire assignment grid. So I have 2 different grids. There's some reasoning for this, and I'll show you with the goals tab in just a second. But the idea is when we're creating a themed weekend, I like, again, control to isolate these things, right? So I just kind of, duplicated that grid, gave it a name. It's right here, this theme weekend. And I just went ahead here and just said, hey, from Friday at 6 p.m. all the way through Sunday night, just play the theme weekend, take my generic clock and go from there. So you can see the difference between just override the hours versus override the grid. There's no right or wrong way to do this. To override that grid, then just go to the schedule here. You can see I created a plus. Choose your date range, choose your grid. I have a little themed weekend grid there, and you can see the dates. So default, default, default for these 3 days, themed weekend, then back to default, 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 right? Very, very simple, very quick and easy. A couple ways you can do it. I, again, like the grid because if I jump over here to the goals tab, goals, balance, attributes, right? I have that same theme in here, the themed weekend. Now, notice the grid up here on the very top. So I don't want to affect my regular scheduled programming, but I still want to work ahead and look at this theme weekend. And again, control with projected turnovers, but real-time dynamic projected turnovers. So if I do the clock override, that's fine. But if I do the grid override, I can then work in tandem here with a different grid in the goals tab. And then I can really see some information of how this is going to rotate across the grid for my themed weekend, right? And maybe I do something now like a cross day part analysis. Click on this drop down and look at, let's say I'm going to remove overnights. I always remove overnights. I like showing you that exists. And, let's be honest, overnights are overnights. But then I can go back here to my theme and I can see how this RCS live themed weekend attribute is playing across all day parts during my grid, right? Stuff like that. You can see a quick little snapshot of what's going on. And then from there, you might have some basic numbers you can see in whatever you want to do. I can also right click on here. If I go back to the generic balance, I can right click on this window and change the color of this RCS live weekend if I wanted to, make it festive or themed, wherever you want it to do. But again, you can see now from that day part, from that grid, from that different, isolated themed weekends, I can have control here, right? So I can start saying some things like min sep on this. I can do some max per hour. And this is a little bit different from what I just did with the clock structure because obviously I want the 3 songs in a row to be an RCS live themed weekend. But what you could do is you can do a constraint, right? You can really start to get really complex here. Go to the clocks, go to the constraints, hit a brand new constraint on here. We'll say themed weekend, right? And we'll have a little plus here. We'll do actually 2 pluses here. And we'll pick a little T for theme. And then we'll do a little T for theme. And maybe it's a, equal to value 1 or equals value 1 and 2, something like that, right? I don't know how you really want to do this, but you can do intro and do theme weekend, something like this, right? Where you can start to really say, we're going to play some multiple themed weekends here. And that could be a primary theme, secondary theme. It could be a flashback, classic hits or occurrence flashback weekend. And you can have primary 80 themes, secondary 80s themes, tertiary 80s themes, put those in here and then put some weights on them. If you wanted to do it that way from the goals and balance, there's a lot of things you can do here with some of those themes, just so you know. Really, the biggest thing I recommend for you is identify what you want to happen and then either let us know or execute that in GSelector, right? There's a great video on our archive, rcsworks.com/rcs-live. We talk about that, how to build better rotations with GSelector's priority list. And the idea there is you identify every transition. Remember, GSelector is just a piece of software. It will do exactly what you want it to do. So if you want to introduce the concept of 3 different levels of themes, create 3 themes and then assign them and go from there, right? Or do a constraint. And don't forget, when you have those clocks in here, you still have the traditional power on that themed weekend. So I can do a clock goal for the very first position. Could be essentially maximize the energy for your very first themed weekend song and then go from there. A lot of ways you can customize this, not just by the theme, but how you design the theme inside of GSelector. And with the goals, balance, attributes, you have the option here to see exactly how this is going to schedule and play out live in real time. Super, super helpful, right? And I'll give you a heads up here. I got one more step here. So if you have questions for me in this process, let me know now so I can answer them. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and dive in the last little bit piece of this theme weekend. And that's going to be in the editor. Let's say for whatever reason, I want to do a manual themed weekend, right? Just whatever, throwing this out there. Your logs are done. And then something happens. Beyonce releases a brand new album and you want to have a Beyonce track at the top of the hour for every single hour, stuff like that, right? In fact, you know what? This was not part of the RCS Live, but let's showcase it. So replace on here. Notice, by the way, there's the themes right here, Shift and T, right? So if I'm working in my window with my keyboard, I can do Shift T. There's my themes, RCS themed weekend. Double click on this, hit OK. And this will give me all the songs I have for my themes weekend if they're allowed to play inside that themed weekend. I'll double check here and see if I have, there we go. There's all our songs. So you can see there's my theme, there's my elements. I'll pick arcade and go from there and just double click on that song and we're good to go as well. So a lot of options there for you in the themed weekend. Other little fun things you can do too, by the way, just throwing this out there. I'm just going to reset this layout. Clearly I was playing around with the history bars earlier today. So I'm going to go here, make this nice and big, left 7 to lock this into place. Let's just say you do have your logs are done. Beyonce releases a brand new album and you want to do a Beyonce artist every single top of the hour, right? Work smarter, not harder. I always say that. So let's just pretend right now you can see that, where am I? Tuesday, 8:30 at 11 p.m. I just picked the most recent day that I'm there. But let's go ahead and do this exercise for time purposes. Jump to the on-air icon. I have Zeta integration. So for me, that's going to have all my assets ready to go. Queued up right here. You can see Thursday, 11 a.m. And let's just say we'll hit to 12 o'clock right here. And I'm going to go and I'm going to replace every song at the top of the hour with Beyonce. I'm going to click that very top one. I'm going to hit the, was it F for the quick filter? Yep, F for the quick filter. I believe I can type in Beyonce. Yep, just B-E-Y. There's Beyonce. Double click on that. I only have a couple Beyonce songs. There's one particular library. So I'm going to go over here, bounce out of there. There's Beyonce. And then, of course, what all I can do there is I can just double click on the next hour. See where my little white cell is right there? See that white cell? I'm going to double click on there, bring it here. There's the first song of the hour. Click on the artist outline, hit F. right? Type in Beyonce, double click on this, bring in If I Were a Boy. Oh, that's right. I have consideration window open. That's why I have that there. I'll pick Crazy in Love, hit enter. There's brand new Beyonce. Sounds good. And then I'll jump to, again, the 2 o'clock hour, top of the hour. Click on this top. I'm going to mix it up here for right now. Hit the Q for the quick filter. And I don't have, oh, artist is not here. Let's go ahead and add it here. And I'd like to give you guys a lot of extras. Quick filter with your Q, settings on here. I go to the very top. We'll pick artist. Let's bring that over there. Hit OK. Let's get rid of artist group. We don't need artist group on there. Hit OK. Save that. Now when I go back to here, if I click on the artist cell and hit F, that's going to be the song criteria filter because I'm on the artist. If I hit the same thing with F under the title, give me the title here, or hit Q, gives me my overall menu of my favorite things. I click on artist, click on here, type in Beyonce, B-E-Y, open that up. If I Were a Boy, boom. Just like that, I have just bam, bam, bam. Every top of the hour has a brand new song. I kind of bypassed the theme a little bit here by kind of doing a manual themed weekend on the fly. That was not part of my intention, but you can see here, that's how it works as well. Oh, Kai, how's it going? You're too nice. Don't, please. Thank you. RCS will tell you you're stroking Nate's ego and don't do that. But thank you. I do appreciate it. Any questions, let me know here, right? So again, we're talking about here is scheduling a themed weekend, how to do it quick and easy inside of GSelector, but more so how to control that themed weekend as well. So library here, right? Again, we took a bunch of assets into a browse list. We left click drag them over here as well. We added the actual theme. It's also here now to also isolate too. So for example, you can say, show me the RCS live themed weekend, but I'm curious about the moods, right? Maybe don't show me the fives, right? Something like that. You can isolate those elements. We then jump to the multi-song changer to confirm both the songs and make that change to the themed weekend. That's in there. We can look at the projected turnovers live in real time over here with the themed weekend. Again, by just going to the grid and then going to the themes. Very, very powerful. We can isolate just the clocks, work smarter on harder. Essentially, go ahead here and just save clock as, and then make your changes and save it. And then do a clock override with an override just like this, or do a grid override here as well. We will respect it. I like the grid, the grid. I like the grid because I can work outside of the scope of the everyday log. So I can essentially build a theme weekend right now, look at it, analyze it, and that's going to be, let's say, scheduled for, the week of 8:30, something like that. I could spend 2 weeks ahead of time building the themed weekend outside the scope of what's, kind of there in the goals tab. Very, very powerful tool. Of course, in the editor, we can add the theme individually, and then, of course, use the history map to bounce from time to time to time. Just, other little examples here in the analysis. I'm just thinking off the top of my head here. You can always go over here, and you can see there's the theme. So you can always search by the history of the theme there. I can go to my goals, priorities. This is really important. Under the assignment, I've hit a plus here. Make sure you know that the theme songs themselves have an overall priority list. Make sure that you duplicate your priority list and isolate your theme song, because the reality is this: if I do a 2-for weekend, if I do a artist back-to-back weekend, if I do a Beyonce weekend, whatever it is, and you have certain rules in there, like let's just pretend for a second I have a classic hits and I'm doing a Fleetwood Mac weekend. And traditionally, my artist minimum separation is 4 hours and 10 minutes, but I'm doing a theme weekend of Fleetwood Mac every hour on the hour. Guess what? That math doesn't work, right? We got to fix it and isolate it. So you can isolate it here in the priority list by going to your theme songs, right? And I might do something like this, where I might go ahead and take my default priority list, right? Do a copy priority list, and we'll call this RCS Live Theme Weekend. Do something like this. And then I might go and I just might take certain things and make them breakable. Something like that. It's just a quick 2-second way to say, all right, we're good. Don't worry about it. Boom. We'll take this. We'll save it and call it a day. That's especially true if you have a lot of, let's say, segue bands, right? Stuff like that. Because a lot of PDs will tell you that if I have some kind of theme weekend, I'm purposely selling it. Some transitions don't apply anymore. And so why are you having unbreakable rules for a themed weekend who you're telling the audience, yeah, we're doing something different here. It's going to sound different. Why worry about it? Just take it, make it breakable, right click, breakable, right click, breakable, call it a day, and then go from there. A lot of things you can do in regards to themes here in GSelector. Cool stuff. Makes sense. Awesome sauce. As always, don't forget, check out our archive, rcsworks.com/RCS-live. Got some great videos with GSelector, with Zeta, and all of that. Don't forget to become a beta user if you're curious. Getting the latest and greatest. GSelector 5.1 is out right now, as well as Zeta 522.1. We'll cover some of those newest features in an upcoming RCS Live. Otherwise, I will see you next Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern time for RCS Live. I am Nate. Have a fantastic